Welcome back. A federal judge declared a key provision of California's Proposition 63 unconstitutional. That provision banned high possession, or the possession rather, of high-capacity magazines and the kind often used in U.S. mass shootings. District Judge Robert Benitez wrote in his 86-page decision that, quote, individual liberty and freedoms are not outmoded concepts. California will most likely appeal the ruling, and many experts say that the matter will eventually wind up before the Supreme Court. State Attorney General Javier Becerra said in a statement Friday that he is contemplating that is his next move. Well, joining us now to discuss this is the host of Noir on NRA TV, Colion Noir. Colin, thanks for being here. Great to see you.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
So what was your reaction to this judge's ruling that basically said, and he cited, in fact, too, home defense in his ruling, that the ban on high-capacity magazines is unconstitutional?
Oh, I was happy about the ruling, to be honest. I've always been adamantly against the banning of standard capacity magazines, as I call them, because that's what they are. And, you know, my point has always been, at what point do we start to understand that some of these laws actually end up hurting good people who are trying to protect their families and themselves, while emboldening and empowering the criminals who are not going to abide by these laws to begin with? On the surface, they say the road to, the road to hell was paved with good intentions. On the surface,
right.
Surface aspect of it, I could see, okay, or maybe if we limit the capacity, it'll minimize the damage. It's been proven time and time again that is not the case at all. We had one of the shootings that we had in California, where he had the same limited capacity magazine, so to speak, and he was still able to enact a level of carnage. And my biggest thing is, don't position me, good people and citizens of this country, to be at the lowest possible ability to defend themselves against people who are going to not abide by these laws and then come in with an advantage on top of the advantage they already have, by attacking me, my family, or anyone else that they choose to.
The other thing, too, I want to talk to you about, Colin, is New Zealand recently implemented a ban on what they call military style assault weapons. Anyone who owns one of these now banned weapons is supposed to turn it over to the government. Over here in this country, we had the bump stock ban recently going to an effect. Apparently, there aren't very many people turning these bump stocks in. There's no real record of it at this point. Does this prove to you that even if a new law is enacted that infringes, some people would say infringes on the Second Amendment, that, it's not going to be enforced, number one, and that Americans aren't necessarily going to comply with
it? Here's the thing. Just because you decide to treat something like the Constitution as being something that's malleable and you can do away with whenever you see fit, doesn't mean that people who have their rights preserved under that Constitution aren't going to abide by them by themselves. And so for me, this notion that we can just decide at any given moment, whenever there's a situation that happens, that we could just do away with constitutional rights is a problem for me. It always has been a problem for me. And it's always going to be something where every time something happens, they're going to then decide, okay, well, how do we limit further, and then further, and then further, and then further? And then you'll end up putting people in positions of becoming felons because they own a piece of plastic. And I don't think that should be the case at all. I think it's ridiculous.
Well, that's a good point, because a lot of people think this whole argument is about guns, when a lot of people, who are really intimately involved with the matter know that it's about the Constitution, not about the guns. So, Colin, I want to talk to you, too, about California. We were mentioning this earlier, but you were in San Francisco recently. You were taping an episode of your program on NRA TV, and you said that you made the very startling realization that there are basically two different San Franciscos. Let's take a listen and show the audience at home a clip of your show here.
One thing I always hear about San Francisco is how beautiful it is, how awesome it is, and it's perfect San Francisco is. How true is that actually?
If you zoom out, it's beautiful.
Gotcha.
But when you're on the streets, it's a pretty shady here.
Yeah.
Golden leaves on concrete streets, they feel out of place. Why not take a bite? Pure sunlight.
I mean, Colin, obviously this is not a tourism film for the city of San Francisco. People might be surprised who haven't been there just how bad things are.
I was surprised. I've always had this image of San Francisco being this beautiful city on the hill. And when I got there, I was met with a very different reality, a reality that was pretty startling, to be honest with you. It was pretty much in disarray. But then the two aspects of the city is still very beautiful. There are elements of the city that are just insanely gorgeous. But at the same time, on the street level, there's just two worlds that are existing at the same time. And it made no sense to me. And I didn't understand how we can be in the modern age that we are in now and then have such large swaths of people living in such a manner. It really kind of threw me for a loop. And it really begged the question, are we really focusing on the issues in these cities, or are we just grandstanding and engaging in transient elements of virtue signaling just to satisfy some level of self-aggrandizement on the part of our political leaders and the people who are supposed to be representing the people in places like San Francisco? So it really threw me for a loop.
I think the reality answers your question. You know, they'd like to talk about all the stuff that, you know, gets them reelected, but not actually do the things that makes their place better, their city better. This is Nancy Pelosi's city. You just watched Newsmax TV, America's fastest growing news channel. Newsmax TV is now available for free on your smartphone. Just go to your iPhone or Android store and download the free Newsmax TV app. Then you can watch free TV news with an American spin anytime, anywhere in the world. Newsmax TV, real news for real people.